Do you still like horror? Do you still like the 80s? Do you still like horror in the 80s? Then you'll love In Search of Darkness Part 2. It's got all new interviews with horror icons like Robert Englund, Tom Savini, Linnea Quigley, Nancy Allen, and more returning guests like John Carpenter and Doug Bradley. There's even going to be a Cinemassacre Collector's Edition, which contains exclusive artwork and a mini documentary featuring me. Click the link in the description to pre-order your Cinemassacre Collector's Edition today. Then you can get your name in the credits and priority access to a bunch of other cool perks. Don't get tricked, this treat is only available until Halloween. Today we're going to talk about our favorite monsters by species or category. So first up, let's just talk about what's your favorite vampire. Now here's the deal. You know, we're both going to pick Dracula, so don't pick Dracula. So it's basically, what's your favorite vampire besides Dracula that could be from a movie or from a comic or a show, a cartoon, or like anything really. Okay,
so it's probably a weird way to start this video off, but if you're ever anybody is a fan of like SCTV or anything like that, my favorite vampire other than Dracula, I'm gonna go with Count Floyd. Now, if you remember Back to the Future 2, the guy who delivers Marty the letter, that is Joe Flaherty, and that he played Count Floyd, and he's just
also in Freaks and Geeks, which was a really great show. Joe Flaherty, he's really good in that too.
He's a great comedic actor. He's there with like Rick Moranis and all those guys. It was a comedy sketch thing, and he played a vampire. And when it's just the most stereotypical vampire ever, and he comes out and he's a children's show host, and it's like meant to be kind of like bad, but he's the best bad vampire ever. And he's hilarious.
Yeah, and he howls too.
Which doesn't even make sense because that's like a werewolf.
Yeah, exactly.
So he just mixes it up because it's just funny.
I think I'd go with Vampira, actually, who was also a host, a horror host.
In Plan 9.
Yeah, and then she, most well known now for Plan 9, because she just has an interesting look to her that was sort of replicated in other forms, like in the Addams Family, Morticia. Even though there was an Addams Family comic before Plan 9, or in the show, the show The Addams Family, which came later, she got, dressed in the black gown and everything. And then you had Elvira. So it was kind of like this, this goth look. And even though Vampira is not technically a vampire, really, it's sort of just an interesting counterpart to Lugosi. It's just a different, take, she's in the movie with Lugosi.
I'd like to see more of those performances. I wonder if anybody has bootlegs or something of more of those recordings of her actually in the 50s doing the horror host stuff.
There doesn't exist a lot of it. I mean, that's why Plan 9 is the really go-to. But I mean, just that shot of her with Tor Johnson, they're both walk in.
It's iconic. She's got her hands out.
Yeah, it's like she just has an iconic look to it.
I gotta throw out my second choice because I did think of another one. Was Grandpa Munster.
Yeah.
Was my other one. Because it's Grandpa Munster is great too. I didn't want to leave him out.
Best werewolf besides the Wolfman.
I got a sort of off color. I got sort of a weird pick for this. So it's not going to be from a horror movie. It's actually from Star Wars. My favorite werewolf, other than because we're doing other than the Wolfman.
Yeah.
My favorite werewolf, other than the Wolfman, is the werewolf in the cantina scene in Star Wars. And I'm going to tell you why he's my favorite. And I know you already know the answer. But it's because he got fucking taken out. And when I was a little kid and I saw Star Wars, I think the first time I saw Star Wars was on VHS, the original Star Wars, because I was born in 1980. I saw it on a VHS tape. And I remember watching it as a kid. And I remember the cantina scene. And everybody remembered, dun, 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 dun. And he's showing all the aliens, whatever. And I remember when the Wolfman came up, I remember a smile came on my face. And I loved it. And he was fucking great. It was a great little moment. It's you don't expect to see, werewolf or whatever. And, I mean, who knows? In the Star Wars universe, it's probably some alien that looks like a werewolf, but it's a werewolf. Later on, they took that out and they replaced it with CGI shit, and I'm like, fuck that. I like that werewolf, and in honor.
So the werewolf is not in it anymore.
No, they take that out and they replace it with some CGI thing.
And this is a New Hope you're talking about.
Yeah, in the new edits of it.
What are we talking about? Why are we talking about Star Wars?
No. All right, so we're moving. Oh, no, what's your werewolf?
Oh.
Jesus Christ.
The Howling. Yeah.
All right, next.
You don't see a lot of it, but when you do, and it's like in the dark, like that's what I imagine a werewolf to look like a real werewolf. It's so good. I don't think they've ever made one past that's looked that good. American Werewolf in London was also really good, but I feel like that one was a little more comedy, and that the werewolf you're looking at it longer in the light when he's transformed. That's the best transformation scene, but the best actual werewolf, the scariest one, is in The Howling. Nice. Okay, so the best mummy. Now here's the thing.
Are we also doing not Boris Karloff?
See, it's confusing because the Mummy, the one that was the classic film, is actually not really the mummy that you think of the most, because he's not wrapped in bandages the whole movie. He talks. So I feel like the Imhotep mummy is a little different. It kind of stands by itself.
That's true.
I feel like, yes, that is the best mummy, but I feel like you want to pick one that has the bandages, that the whole movie, and is your stereotypical, just like, like walking with like the broken arm and like dragging one foot and like backing somebody into a corner to kill him. Like, so I think the best looking one is Monster Squad. Oh,
Monster Squad, okay.
And then they pull the bandages off him, and then he turns into just...
I thought you were going with Imhotep. Okay, you're going Monster Squad.
Well, that's saying, like, we got to pick one with bandages. You don't have to, but...
Okay.
Or you could just go with Imhotep, I guess. Because, I mean, he is...
Right.
But I feel like it's another one where it's just too easy if you just pick Imhotep.
Yeah, Monster Squad. He just looks great. Like all the monsters look great in that.
Because
the creature from the Black Lagoon in that looks awesome.
Yeah. Because the mummy in Monster Squad, it looks like a mummy that's been rotting away. Like it kind of just like you can see under the bandages. I think it's got like some bones, and it's like you basically feel that it's really a skeleton with bandages on it, not just a person with bandages.
So for me, I got a silly one.
Okay.
Again, it's Mumra. He's kind of cool because, speaking of transformation, he transforms. So he transforms from a like literal mummy into Mumra the Ever Living, which is sort of this sort of bulky, big kind of like monster form of a mummy. And that's kind of interesting too, because it's like, when you think of a mummy, you think of, the bandage wrap thing, but here he is kind of transforming with magic into like a monster mummy, which it's almost like when Shredder turns into a Super Shredder. It's kind of like that equivalent. So Mumra is a good villain. He's a classic, 80s character. So
yeah. What is your favorite mad scientist?
Okay, so the best mad scientist I can think of, I don't know that he's a monster, but it might be able to be argued, and maybe you can help me. But I'm gonna go with Doc Brown. Can you really pick a better mad scientist than Doc Brown?
Not at all. I mean, I don't think I specified best mad scientist from a horror film.
Oh, okay.
So I think you're correct. I mean, Doc Brown he's a mad scientist. He's not a villain, but he's a good mad scientist.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't need to explain to anybody why he's fucking great. Everybody loves Doc Brown, so it's really...
How could you? I mean, he's so animated, and like... I think when he was talking about... we saw him at a Q&A one time, and he was talking about how he came up with the character.
Yeah.
Like how he envisioned it. He said he had like a record or a CD or something from like... It probably wasn't a CD in 85, but... CDs came out in 85.
Cassette or something.
Yeah, it would have been. It was probably on a record anyway. And it was like a composer, and it was like a picture of the composer with like really messy hair, and he was just like, and he just thought about that, and he was like, that's what I want it to be like. So he tried that out, and I guess Zemeckis or Bob Gale.
I remember you asking him a question about Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, about how difficult it was to perform with animation.
But since we are talking about like vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. So speaking of something scary though, so he is a mad scientist, and I mean he develops time travel, And think of all the things that go wrong with time travel. And even in the Back to the Future movies, there's a point where he says, I wish I never invented this damn thing.
Yeah.
And all that. He kind of created a monster, which was the time machine.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like...
It's the science experiment gone wrong category.
Yeah, it was like kind of... It kind of became scary. I mean, look at that alternate future and stuff.
Yeah.
So in a way, he's definitely a mad scientist. So what's your mad scientist?
It's tough because it's like, okay, Dr. Frankenstein, it's too easy. But the thing is, if I pick Dr. Frankenstein, I feel like I wouldn't even pick the Colin Clive. Like, I would. It's close, but I would go with Peter Cushing as Dr. Frankenstein because But he was in it like 7 times, six, I think, 6 or 7.
Bunch, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure it was 6. But anyway, I almost felt like that's a little too easy too. But the one that does it, the one that pulls it off the best in one single film, is Dr. Pretorius, and the fact in Bride of Frankenstein, and the fact that he upstages Dr. Frankenstein in that movie.
Oh yeah, he's way better.
It's like that's kind of a hard thing to do for this guy to come along, because when I first watched Bride of Frankenstein, first time I ever saw it, I was like, why do they need another mad scientist? Like they don't need this guy. But then he's so good, he like wins you over.
Yeah.
Like when he's in the crypt and he's drinking with the skull and everything, it's just he's the best when it comes to a mad scientist in a horror film. Like he's where it's at.
I love that movie too.
Yeah.
So what do we got next?
Best zombie.
When James thought of this list and he says best zombie, and it was easier for me to think of zombie movies because I was like, okay, best zombie movies, I like Night of the Living Dead and whatever. But when I think of like an individual zombie, that's tough because zombies usually come in like packs.
Yeah.
But there is a movie with one zombie that I thought of, which is iconic, and it's 80s, is that Tar zombie from Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And I think that he was a cool character just because, he had a sort of a different look in him because he was coming out of the tar and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't have a lot to say about him, but I'm going to pick him.
Well, he's so weird, and like you don't get a good chance to look at him too often. That's what makes him so appealing, because you're just like, whoa, what the hell? How did they? Because you're kind of wondering, how did they do that? Because the face is so articulate, but it's clearly not a person's face. It's some kind of like prosthetic or animatronic or something. And you see him, and he comes out, and he's all just like dripping with like
tar.
Tar, yeah, I guess. And then they knock his head off with that like bat, but then he's still moving and everything.
Yeah,
it's so good. I almost picked the Tar zombie, but the one that I think won me over the best was in Dawn of the Dead. It's the zombie played by David Emge. I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation of the name. I think it's David Emge.
Okay.
And he's a main character in the film. Like, he's a protagonist, and then he gets bitten toward the end of the film, and then he becomes a zombie. And he really takes it over the top with his acting, because when you play a zombie, you kind of just have to invent like what it is. Like, okay, maybe the arm's broken a little, so I'm just gonna like dangle this arm. And every zombie, like George Romero, would just let them do whatever they did. He would just be like, okay, like everybody's got the idea. They're like, okay, a zombie, and then they do their own thing. And he was like, I want to make sure mine stands out. So he really went for it. So he's got like this broken neck where he just has his neck twisted like this. And then the gun, because in the previous scene he had a gun. Well, he still has it like dangling from his finger, but the zombie doesn't really know it's a gun or what's on his hand. He's just kind of just like this, and it's still dangling there. And I think he did something with his leg too, where he just like twisted it around. And the fact that it's all in the performance, it's not just the makeup that makes it good or anything like that. Like this is just an actor's performance as a zombie doing an amazing job.
Yeah. I
actually had the opportunity once. I met him at Chiller convention in New Jersey. The same day I met Romero, actually. They had a lot of the Dead cast and crew and everybody there. And I remember I got to tell him that too, even back then. And this was 2005. I'm pretty sure, 2004, 2005. I remember I said that to him. I was like, oh yeah, you're my favorite zombie ever.
All right, so next up we have Best Ghost. Now, what's always funny to me when I think of Ghost and James, I know that James, you don't really like ghosts.
Not as much. I mean, like I could think of a ton more, you know, mad scientists and stuff, but
a lot of things are more interesting to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like ghosts, it's kind of just a little bit more intangible. Like it's hard to picture. Like a lot of movies that have ghosts, they either don't show the ghost at all, or it's something that comes out and you're like, okay, well, what's the rules with
So
this?
I'll be interested to see what you say.
Yeah.
Because I know that's sort of like you're not too into the ghosts. So I want to know, but I'll give you mine real quick. Mm-hmm. So mine. I thought about Beetlejuice, and I thought about a bunch of. And he's the ghost with the most. Yep. But I'm gonna go with Gozer.
Gozer
from Ghostbusters, because.
Well, let's see. Wait a minute. I want to see if this. I'm thinking if this is correct, because Gozer is like a Sumerian god of some kinds. I don't think Gozer's really a ghost. He's more like just a god, a Sumerian god.
All right, then Slimer.
Okay, there you go. No, I almost picked Slimer too, because like Slimer's so iconic.
Right.
But
well, yeah. if I can say that Gozer is a ghost, though, I think Gozer is like a great character, and I like the whole thing of how Ray kind of chooses what Gozer is, I guess, and like the form and the coming of Gozer and all that stuff, and just the way that whole scene is. And
good job, Ray.
Yeah, you're right. What's your favorite ghost?
My favorite ghost, I think, is the ghost of Christmas Future, and of course that's from the book Christmas Carol. But I think if you're asking for my favorite depiction of it, it would probably be in the movie Scrooge, 1951. You don't see much of him. I think he just holds up a hand or something, but like, it's just the idea that ghost is like they build up to him, and he's, you know, he already knows that he's gonna have a shitty future.
It's not Pete and Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, no, but that's actually the first time I was introduced to that story.
Yeah,
was the Mickey's Christmas Carol. I try to put that on every Christmas too. You know, it's short; you can't go wrong. It's like 20 minutes or something. But yeah, no, I mean, just the Ghost of Christmas Future. It's just so foreboding, and the fact that it's a Christmas story. It's not like a horror story. It doesn't start that way, and it's just kind of weird when like it takes this horror turn and it makes it more creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the best devil. Yeah.
All right, my favorite devil. I don't know if you know my pick, but it's from the Twilight Zone.
Oh, Printer's Devil.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Burgess Meredith. Mm-hmm. So like Burgess Meredith, he
doesn't look like the devil in the movie, but he is the devil.
Right. He's another one of those actors that's just like anything he's in, he's great. He's like Vincent Price, you know. He's just one of those guys like Jack Nicholson. It's like they're always good. They always bring it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So like Burgess Meredith, he's just so good, and he's in several Twilight Zone episodes. But there's one, and it's like the one I feel like nobody talks about this one. They always talk about the other ones with him, where he breaks the glasses and all that stuff. But yeah, basically he's the devil in one of the episodes, and he's the devil. He's a piece of shit, and and there's a few depictions of the devil in the Twilight Zone, but I think he's my favorite because of the way he like gives that performance.
Yeah, so it really is good. It's been a long time since I've seen that, because that's from season 4. Season 4 was the only season of the Twilight Zone that were an hour long, and most of those tend to not be as good. But that one is really good.
There's some that are very good, though.
Oh, there are, yeah.
But I do agree with that.
It's the weakest season overall, and it's the only season of Twilight Zone that's not on Netflix. And I don't even know if it's on like other streaming services. I'm not sure.
Keep those DVDs.
But my favorite devil.
Yeah, what's your favorite devil?
It's from Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. Dave Grohl as the devil. Now this is a humorous devil. This is not a serious one. But what makes it so funny is how good a job they did on the makeup. Like it just looks like it's almost as good as Legend with Tim Curry. Like that level of perfection. But it still looks a little bit funny. It's like it's not all the way there. And his acting is funny because as the devil, he just like. I mean, he challenges them they challenge him to a rock and roll duel, and then the devil breaks out a guitar, and then he's playing the drums, and he's singing, and then while he's doing it, he's like, making obscene gestures and stuff, and he's like cursing and everything. Like he's dirty, like the way you would think the devil is. I mean, the devil is just a foul-mouthed piece of shit. I mean, that's what he is.
I always like the devil.
Yeah.
Anything else we get?
And he's got the goat feet too.
Oh yeah, the goat feet.
Okay, so best witch. See, is this one where I should set a rule? Like, is this too easy? Because you know what I'm thinking of. I
know what you're thinking of. We all know what James is thinking. Do we even have to say it? You're thinking of the Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
And that was the one I thought of. And as soon as I thought of the Wicked Witch, I'm like, well, there is no better witch.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Maleficent, from Sleeping Beauty.
Maybe.
I mean, she turns into a dragon.
Is the Blair Witch?
Well, the Blair Witch isn't even real. I mean, because it's like you're in the movie, aren't they? Like in the woods, and like you never see anything.
Did you see something at the end? Maybe.
I think they get killed at the end or something. It's been a while, but the Blair Witch is all off screen, so yeah. I wouldn't really care.
I don't know. I was just trying to think. Yeah, it's hard with witches.
It is, but there's like.
But I do have a witch that's different. Okay. Or do you have somebody that's not the Wicked Witch?
No, I mean I'm thinking Maleficent now because she turns into a dragon. I mean, like how do you beat that?
That's pretty good.
There's also, I guess you'd call her a witch. I mean, I think in the movie they call her a hag, but which I guess is like a term that's similar to a witch. Mm-hmm. In Pumpkinhead has that really creepy, like witch character who resurrects Pumpkinhead. She's the one who brings him out. That would be a good one. But you know what? I mean, just look, the Wicked Witch. The Wicked Witch is the most classic witch. I think it's the first witch that was green.
James, you can pick the Wicked Witch.
Okay.
You're allowed.
Yeah, because I think of the Wicked Witch as like a classic monster because she's from the 30s.
Yeah.
The 30s is what brought us Dracula, Frankenstein, The Invisible Man.
It somehow fits, yeah.
The Mummy. And even the werewolf, because Werewolf of London was in the 30s. So then you got the witch, and not to mention the black cat. If you want to, I'm trying to pare down trying to collect together all the different Halloween characters.
And when people think of a witch, everybody thinks of the fucking Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
Period.
And because the movie was in color mostly, and the witch is green, I feel like they did that to make the color stand out. Everything had a color. The Emerald City, it was all green. Like everything was about color. So my theory, what I think, I mean, you'd have to fact check me on this, but I feel like that was the first time when a witch was green.
All right, so my favorite witch. This is another. I got all these dumb answers, but I got another dumb answer for you. James and I made a movie in I guess when we were coming out of college called The Wizard of Oz 3: Dorothy Goes to Hell.
Yeah, it was basically like it was kind of a parody of Return to Oz, where like Return to Oz was a lot more sick and demented than the first one. And then we were like, whoa, we got to do Wizard of Oz 3 and make it even like weirder.
So you guys know Shit Pickle. Shit Pickle came from that. Super Mecha Death Christ came from that.
Yeah, but we know there's a Wicked Witch of the West and the East. So basically what we came up with was, what about a witch of the middle who isn't good or bad? Who just doesn't have a decision one way or another?
Because she's in the middle. That was because she's always like centrally focused. So she's not positive or negative, north or south. She's just always in the middle. So whenever she get to ask a question, be like, what do you think about those munchkins? I don't know. Okay. Well, the devil's coming to take over Oz. Are you going to do anything about it? I don't care. She just always had like an answer like that.
I don't feel like
I don't want to.
Like she doesn't help or anything. Because they're trying to figure out, like, are you a good witch or a bad witch? Like, should we be afraid of you? Like, what's going on? Are you gonna throw fire at us or something? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's always just like nothing answers, and it's like okay.
All right, so we're gonna go best killer doll.
All right, I'm going to throw out mine. I got a better, more serious pick for this one, sort of. From Tales from the Crypt, which is a show that I love. There's an episode with Don Rickles, who I love Don Rickles as a comedian, but they put him into this episode. And, Don Rickles is a guy that used to always be on the Tonight Show, and he would come out, and he was friends with like Frank Sinatra, and he would just come out and just totally like rip everybody apart. He was that kind of comedian. Again, it's sort of the same thing. He's this ventriloquist / comedian, and he's on stage and really just ripping into the audience. But there's a twist, so I have to do this. So spoiler alert, there's going to be a big spoiler here. It turns out that... Oh, and by the way, Bobcat Goldthwait is also in this episode, and he's an aspiring ventriloquist, and he wants to become a ventriloquist, and then he comes over to the guy's house after. He's like, oh my god, your act was so good and all this. And he sees the ventriloquist dummy box, and he's like, oh my god, is that the dummy? Can I see the dummy? And he's like, don't touch that box! And all this stuff. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And the dummy, there's this great twist to it where it turns out that the whole episode, he's like hiding his hand behind his back, or he's got his hand under something or whatever. It turns out, his half-brother was born into his arm. So his hand is his brother, and he was such a good ventriloquist, not because he could do that, but because it was like literally his hand was a person, was alive, and they would go up and they had this great banter back and forth because it was actually like a person. It was the greatest ventriloquist ever because like literally his fucking hand was alive, and but they're both also on top of that, they're both mentally ill and they're murderers. So it's just like it's fucking nuts. It's actually my favorite episode of Tales from the Crypt. He puts a mask over it. It's actually like a deformity in his hand or whatever you want to call it. So it's not like technically a dummy, but there's the whole episode is about like dummies and ventriloquist dummies and stuff. So that's my favorite dummy. That's my dummy story for you.
Okay. Yeah. This one also has sort of like an obvious one, which I'm not actually picking, but just to say it, is Chucky. Like, he's kind of like the iconic killer doll, but he was really the iconic one for our generation. The one that I think, which even Chucky was sort of imitating in the first movie, was Talking Tina from the Twilight Zone. I think that's my favorite, because that was actually the first killer doll I ever saw, I think. And that movie...
Twilight Zone marathon, probably.
Yeah. I think I remember watching that one with my dad, and I was really young, and I was actually really scared by that episode because I didn't know where it was going. Where it starts off, and it's just like a regular doll. It says, I'm talking Tina, and I love you very much. And then it says to the dad, in the same exact voice, says, I'm talking Tina, and I don't think I like you. And it's like, whoa. And then the music starts up, and I was like, what is this show? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And then it keeps getting worse. Like, the doll keeps saying things worse. And finally it says, like, I'm talking Tina, and I'm going to kill you. I was just like, oh, shit. Like, what is going to happen? And then nothing ever really does. Like, the doll never actually starts to, like, move and kill. But he, like, he, like, trips on it in the steps, and, like, it's... I mean, look, I'm not spoiling much because it's so good either way. Just watch the episode. But the thing is, the first Chucky was kind of doing that too, and did a good job also, where it was sort of like ambiguous. Like, you don't know if the doll is really alive until toward the end they made it where he's like explicitly alive. And like, I think the first thing he says is like you dumb bitch or whatever. It's like, okay, he's also not just alive, but he's cursing and But Talking Tina really is like the original one. And I know Twilight Zone also had the dummy. There was that episode.
Best Scary Child.
I think I know mine.
Okay. So best Scary Child. For me, I don't want to go on too long about this because it's been a while since I've seen it. But there's a movie. It's from the 1950s. I guess you can consider it a horror movie, sort of. But basically, it's this movie about this fucked up kid. Think about like The Good Son, like that kind of thing, or like just a shitty kid, like Dennis the Menace. Imagine Dennis the Menace if Dennis the Menace like murdered people. Like this is what this movie is, and it's this innocent little girl, and basically the idea is that you would not expect a very innocent little girl to be a murderer. And nobody believes that she's doing anything wrong because she's this sweet, innocent little girl, but she's a fucking monster. I remember watching that and being like, "Whoa, man, she's something,"
Wow.
But
Yeah.
what do you got?
Mine, it's another Twilight Zone.
Okay.
It's called It's a Good Life. It's like that kid is really scary. Basically, he has these powers.
Oh, that fucking kid.
Yeah. He has these powers where he can just do everything, but he's a spoiled brat, so his whole family has to just do whatever he says. And
you're a very bad man.
You're a very bad man. And then he doesn't do anything that horrible. He turns him into a Jack-in-the-Box.
That's horrible. No, what do you mean? If you got turned into a Jack-in-the-Box right now, that's pretty fucking horrible.
It is, but it's not as morbid. It's not like he murders them or dismembers them in any way. Like that. It could be worse, but it is, the Twilight Zone. So this is either any time between 59 and 64 when this was made. But I mean, the remake,
sometimes he would put him out in the cornfield or whatever that meant.
Exactly. Like they keep talking about this cornfield,
like you don't want to go out there. Because I imagine when he goes out into the cornfield, there's bad shit in the cornfield. There's monsters in the cornfield or something.
I never even thought of that because everything he ever sent to the cornfield is in the cornfield still. So. Because in the beginning, he's talking about some frog that he was playing with or some rodent, I don't know. Yeah. Where he's like, oh, I gave it 2 heads and then I wished it in the cornfield.
See?
So all this shit is in the cornfield.
And all the people are scared that they're like, we don't want to go to the cornfield.
Okay, now I got to watch it again with that mindset.
Yeah.
But I just remember all the funny little things where like the one guy, he's playing the piano or whatever and he hits a wrong note or something. I don't remember, but everything they do, they're just nervously trying to follow exactly what he says. And oh no, somebody makes noise and goes, don't make any noise when the music's playing. I don't like any noise when the music's playing.
Yeah, it's really terrifying.
And they're just building up because the one family member I think is drunk and he's getting more and more agitated by it. So finally he speaks up against the kid and everybody else is just like, no, no, no. And he's like, you're a bad man. And then turns him into the Jack-in-the-Box. Yeah. It's so good.
Okay, best space monster. I had to think a while about this. So what I came up with, I think science fiction. So I went to Star Trek. And I thought about all the aliens and monsters and different things that are on Star Trek. And I thought about... there's an episode of the original series called The Doomsday Machine.
Oh, yeah.
And then after I thought about it, I was also thinking, I feel like the Star Trek 4 movie might have been partially a little bit of a remake of that, because they have this thing that's coming to destroy Earth.
And but it's basically the log of shit with the disco ball that talks to the whales.
That thing. But in the original episode, it's like a cylindrical thing, and it has sort of like a sun almost in it, or this sort of glowing thing. And it's going around the universe, and basically it's eating planets, kind of, and it's like the Death Star, or it's eating anything in its path, and it's just this gigantic thing, and then they have to take it out. But what a scary idea of this monstrous thing in space, whatever it is, nobody even knows, and it's just going around and just eating planets, entire planets. It's a horrible idea. It's similar to the Death Star, but so that was my space monster. I thought it was pretty terrifying.
That's a cool idea, because I never thought of it as a monster, because I didn't remember if it was alive or not. But
well, you don't know. See, I don't know what it is. Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite episodes too as a kid. Anyway, I think my favorite space monster this is another really tough toss-up. I almost picked the Blob, because that's a great space monster where it comes out of the asteroid and then it just oozes around and it gets bigger when it eats things, and it can crawl under a door. I mean, the Blob was always one of my favorite things. But you know what? Ghidorah. King Ghidorah. I mean, it's a 3-headed dragon that shoots lightning. I mean, I don't know if you could beat that. So I guess I got to go with King Ghidorah. Monster Zero.
Yeah, King Ghidorah's fucking awesome. Yeah. What about why not Mecha King Ghidorah?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to... If you want to, what's the word?
Up the ante.
Yeah, up the ante. If you want to, up the ante, just give it a double shot. Just if Ghidorah is not enough for you, Mecha Ghidorah.
Wait, I'm gonna put you to the challenge just a little bit on this though. Why Ghidorah or Mecha Ghidorah over, say, Gigan?
Oh, I mean, Gigan's got the buzzsaw. It's really cool. But I mean, Ghidorah it looks the coolest. A golden dragon. I mean, first of all, just that he's all, shining in gold.
Yeah. I think Ghidorah is just like iconic. And don't you think of Ghidorah as like the main villain for Godzilla? It's not. Gigan is like almost the secondary or something, or maybe Mechagodzilla.
I mean, there's a bunch of others, but King Ghidorah is kind of like Godzilla's main opponent.
Yeah. Best psychopath. I gotta go with Jack Torrance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen The Shining, I don't really need to say much more.
Nothing else to say.
But I mean, like, Jack Nicholson's performance. I mean, if anybody can go nuts, it's Jack Nicholson. So there you go. I don't know what else to say about it. I think he's the best. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you've never seen The Shining, go watch The Shining. Like, there's certain movies I feel like everybody has to see. You need to see Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that could be another video we could do, like movies you have to see.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Any genre.
Yeah,
we could do that sometime. But I think I got to go with Norman Bates,
That's
Psycho,
a good one.
Because he's so unassuming. Like he's like he seems like a nice guy, just a regular dude, and then
he's creepy.
Yeah. But then he goes off the rails, and like you never think like it's also kind of a tough one because one of those. I mean, look, I'm assuming that you've seen it because it's like you can't talk about Psycho without spoiling everything. But, that the whole time you think it's his mother doing the killing, but it's really him. And it was such a unique idea. I mean, it was so unique that they had to explain it in the last scene when that psychologist guy comes in and he, like, explains that he has, like, basically a split personality disorder. Just probably the most complex psychopath that at the time and probably still to this day. And
personally, me, like, I actually really like the sequel. Do you like the sequel?
Oh, Psycho 2 is really good. Yeah. The other ones, I mean, Psycho 3 was like, and then Psycho 4 was kind of good again.
I don't think I ever saw the fourth one.
Yeah.
That one's good?
Yeah, the fourth one is mostly flashback.
Okay.
But Norman Bates is basically like telling the story of what happened when he was a kid. So it gets into more of what happens as a kid. And it goes through it kind of fast, and it's kind of a cheaper made-for-TV movie, but you still got Anthony Perkins, and like it's good.
Last one we got for you folks: best killer robot.
The Terminator.
The Terminator, but I can't beat that. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, the Terminator.
I got to get mine though. So mine is I got to go with the Borg from Star Trek.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're half robot, I guess. They're half cybernetic and half flesh, but they're a robot, and they're pretty fucking terrifying. Once again, going around and ripping your humanity away. It's pretty terrifying.
Speaking of a show that I kind of miss, like I miss Star Trek. That I haven't really watched anything Star Trek in a long time.
That's good.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, but I mean, like, I've never seen Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine's really good.
Okay, because basically, like, I've seen all of Next Generation. I've seen most of the original. Like, I've seen, like, almost all the original. I've seen all the movies, and that new Picard show came out. I just wanted to ask you, have you seen all of Picard?
So, like...
Well, basically, my question is there any reason to keep watching it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Cool. Anyway, all right.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.